Vladimir Putin just got in that limousine, the Beast, without an interpreter. Vladimir Putin just learned English in the past few years, Ambassador McFaul, or has he always known it?
Well, he's always known some. He understands English, but he doesn't speak it well. I've heard him speak it. And I think it's a really interesting question. What are they talking about? Are they understanding each other? My guess is Putin does know enough English to hold a conversation for a 10 or 15-minute drive, but not much more than that.
It's interesting. If you're watching on from the UK, what are you thinking of this? What is the Prime Minister thinking?
You're looking at it with some alarm, you're biting your nails, you're hoping and praying that Trump doesn't do something stupid, that Trump doesn't do something that all of Europe is going to come to regret. I think European leaders, by the way, over the last week have put in a lot of diplomatic effort in trying to speak to Trump. For example, the Finnish president, Alexander Stubb, often speaks to Trump and tries to portray Europe's views to Trump and then takes America's views and puts them to European leaders. So there is some communication and there's some presentation of what Europe wants out of this, the security guarantees they would need, the promises they would need from America to keep helping Ukraine, however this goes. But I think either way, they will watch with bated breath and nervousness.
I don't want to say that having a meeting at the White House and in the Oval Office is somehow less than what's happening here. That's not what I'm implying. But when we were watching, and we've talked about this, our allies go and meet with the president in Washington. They're always going with some sort of gift, some sort of offer, some sort of honor. When Keir Starmer was here in the United States, he came with another offer of a state visit at Buckingham Palace, which was seen as a really big deal. Nobody gets two invitations to meet with the Crown in the UK. And Donald Trump, I mean, I said this to you, he seemed like nonplussed by it. Oh, you're giving that to me again? Of course you are.
Yeah.
The way that he embraces and lights up when he sees Vladimir Putin are not our ally, who we have a hostile relationship with, is so different. And I think it's so hard to understand.
It really is. Again, if you are any leader anywhere in the world right now, you're looking at this and you see two things. One is that the rules don't matter. So you can
Friendships don't matter?
Friendships don't matter. Democracy doesn't matter. And America, which stood up for these things, stood up for the rules-based order, didn't sign up to the ICC and has a war criminal on its soil. Has mistreated democratically elected leaders, but welcomes Vladimir Putin with a robust handshake and a literal red carpet, which you do not see with other leaders in the same way. That symbolism, very important for Putin back home, but also very important for other leaders around the world as they look at what gets valued and what doesn't.
Alexander, tell me a little bit about the relationship or the value that Donald Trump places on Volodymyr Zelensky. It is ebbed and flowed over these past few months.
There's always a natural proclivity for his strong men that he likes to model, whether that's Xi or Putin. And that bromance goes back certainly to the beginning of the first Trump administration. At the same time, he has a pretty significant animus towards Zelensky because he associated Zelensky with the first impeachment. That's a lot to overcome. I think you could see in the preparation for this, he didn't have his kind of big, huge grin. This was a cooler introduction. The presser that he had on the plane ride over set a much more kind of somber tone. And except for that, getting into the Beast and, kind of his desire to charm, this is probably somewhat of a cooler reception. I think part of that is the fact that the bar is pretty high. I mean, Trump probably believes he's given Putin a gift and he expects something in return. And Putin has to deliver, otherwise it could be pretty disastrous for him also. Yes, he has this PR win. He's been elevated on the world stage. He's been normalized. He didn't get arrested like he should have. But at the same time, he faces some pretty severe sanctions and maybe an escalating support to Ukraine. So I think Trump is looking for him to deliver something. If not, this could easily go, Trump is notoriously mercurial, so this could easily go wrong and awry. Trump is looking for a win in this case.
But what about Volodymyr Zelensky as well? I mean, He's not at this meeting. He wasn't invited to this meeting. Donald Trump says he'll call him if they come to a ceasefire. But at the same time, there's obviously been a very testy relationship there. We remember the Oval Office meeting that got very fiery, where J.D. Vance demanded Zelensky apologize, or I'm sorry, thank the country, say thank you for all the help that we've given him. But Donald Trump has given Volodymyr Zelensky more help recently. He has shown new warmth toward Volodymyr Zelensky. The relationship, it seems, has evolved. If you are Volodymyr Zelensky, how do you play this? How do you respond?
I think it has evolved. I think in the preparation for this, Trump and Zelensky have had another number of talks. Zelensky and his European allies have all attempted to couch this situation and the stakes for European security and for global security. So a lot of that prep work has been done on the front end to try to ensure that maybe if there's any possibility of extracting a piece, of coercing a piece in this conversation, Trump is able, at least is informed enough to try to do that. I don't think that's going to necessarily carry the day, mainly because of the topics that have been discussed. Vladimir Putin somewhat needs this war. He certainly doesn't see a utility in ending the war anytime soon. He feels like he has the upper hand. He's getting a lot of gifts from Trump so far. He's going to push that as far as he can without burning the relationship. And a part of this meeting here is to kind of keep Trump on side. So I think Zelensky's played his cards as best as he can. The European allies have played their cards in the aftermath. Based on the outcomes here, they'll have another bite at the apple and a say in what happens goes forward. Maybe it's a Trump trilateral summit, but for now, this is all about two world leaders on the stage trying to see if they could get a deal together, obviously working at complete opposite ends from each other.
Does the imagery impact Vladimir Putin, the imagery of the F-22s walking between the two, this show of American military might? Does it impact him?
No. Honestly, no. I think it's silly. And I think Vladimir Putin looks at all of this as signs of weakness, not strength.
Why?
Because I invaded Ukraine. He's the first, I want to say it one more time. He is the first leader since Hitler to launch a full-scale invasion and occupation and annexation of another country. And that country was a democracy. The democratically elected leader of that country, as you rightly pointed out, when he went to the Oval Office, was made fun of. I, as an American, was embarrassed by how he was treated. And